Welcome to the Fantasy First Aid Post-Draft Special and Week 1 Forecast. I'm your host, the Tutor. Let's talk a little bit about the drafts and things that I've noticed from the mini drafts that I've competed in these last 3 hectic weeks. The number ones across the board for each position were Aaron Rodgers, Chris Johnson, and Andre Johnson. Um, pretty solid 3. Once in a while, I saw Adrian Peterson go before Chris Johnson. I saw Breeze going before Rodgers, but for the most cases, these were the top 3 at the position. Almost always Andre Johnson as the number 1 wide receiver. Rookies were early. I was pretty surprised to see Best and Spiller and guys like Des Bryant and McCluster go a lot earlier than they probably should have. I think a lot of fantasy football players are really banking on one of them to become a sleeper and save their season. You obviously had the owners that weren't really aware of the Jackson and Rice situation, and those owners have already dug themselves into a hole right off the bat. Aaron Foster, I had actually seen him slip into the 2nd round, and many cases early 3rd round. I believe this is overvalued for a Houston running back who hasn't had any experience yet. So I think a lot of owners who had them as a 2nd running back, possibly 1st running back, they're going to be in for a long season. Brett Favre, he announced his retirement. Then he announced he was coming back, and at that time, many drafts had taken place. So a lot of people were scrambling to pick him up real quick, and I had a chance to see some drafts after Favre said he was coming, and he was another one that may be overvalued, but if he put up the numbers like he did last year, then he'll be just fine. Wes Walker, he was going 4th, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, and he's one of those ones you just didn't know what his health was going to be like, but he didn't seem to slip, and fantasy football players are really praying that his health is alright and that he's the same Wes Walker as we saw a couple years ago. And Jacobs, even though he lost his starting job, still during draft time was still getting drafted after Bradshaw. So I think a lot of fantasy football players are actually pretty smart, and they knew that Bradshaw was eventually going to be the fantasy football stud. So good call for all you guys who drafted Bradshaw before you even thought about drafting Jacobs. Notable transactions and injuries that have happened recently. Obviously, you had the whole TJ Houshmandzadeh issue. Javon Walker was cut from his team. Patrick Creighton was traded to San Diego. Matt Leinart just signed a deal with Houston. Derek Ward, the same. Lavdell Betts was released, Michael Clayton was released, and Willie Parker all released. Sidney Rice, obviously his injury is going to cost him half the season. Donnie Avery is going to be missing the year, along with Hardesty from Cleveland, who was also getting a lot of love in the draft. Brian Leftwich, potential sleeper at the quarterback position if you have somebody. If you have Ben Roethlisberger on your team and you were hoping for a 4-game quarterback, and he's down, and now Denny Dixon will get the start. Michael Bush may play the first week, but I would keep a very close eye on his injury. The same for Moreno and McNabb. Those are 3 guys that are banged up right now, and if at all possible, I would try to sit week 1. And the same thing for Chad Schillen over at Oakland. His health doesn't seem to be getting any better either. Alright, week 1 strategy. What do? You just drafted. So, here's some of the things I would do. Stand pat, okay? Don't be the guy trading all your players before you even play the game. Those are the guys that you know don't think they had a good draft, or they think they're just going to get great in every position, and it's not possible to get great in every position. If you're great at running backs, you're probably lacking at receivers. You can't have it all, and those folks that just try to make trade after trade before the season starts, more often than not, hurt themselves. Play your early draft picks, okay? Regardless of the matchup, they're not going to sit a stud. Play who you trusted enough to draft, play them first week. After the first week, reevaluate your players, reevaluate the matchup, then possibly, do some moving and some shaking. Defense, go by matchups. I don't care who you drafted first, go by matchup. If you have to go into the waiver wire and pick up the Chicago Bears this week to start against the Lions, that would be an ideal choice. And keep an eye out on injuries. I just mentioned about 4 guys in the last slide that you should keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for those guys who are still kind of banged up but seem like they're going to play. Week 1 dud. We got Santana Moss, who, I just don't see him doing anything with Dallas. Possibly with McNabb being hurt. I really just don't see anything happening with that. And we got Matthew Stafford. I know a lot of you may be tempted to play him, but he's not going to have a very good week in Chicago. And I tell you right now, I told you to start your studs, and I would still start them. But do not look for very good weeks out of Sean Green, Ray Rice, or Deshaun Jackson. They're playing some 3 tough teams, and they're going to be struggling to get into the end zone. Kenny Britt against Oakland. Looks like he's not getting much love from the coaching staff, and Oakland's got a pretty good defense over there, so I would try to keep away from Kenny Britt in your starting lineup this week. Jamal Charles and Pierre Thomas, 2 other guys you probably drafted pretty early. They got some tough matchups. If you can avoid those guys, do so. But like I said before, start your early draft pick. Just take a chance. Maybe they break out. Clinton Porter shouldn't do anything against Dallas. Look for Larry Johnson to also take some carries away from him. Ronnie Brown, Buffalo. I know a lot of people like Ronnie Brown versus Buffalo, but I'm going to tell you right now, Ronnie Brown is not going to do so good against Buffalo. He's got a little tandem with Ricky Williams. I think that Henry comes out throwing. I don't really think Brown gets many touches and or a score. T.O. against New England. Stay away from T.O. until he absolutely proved that he should be in the lineup. Michael Turner of Pittsburgh. I know you drafted him early. Feel free to play him, but I'm just warning you, he's not going to put up first-round numbers this week. Bowling against the Jets. That seems like the obvious choice. I would just stay away from Bolden this week. I'm sure you have a better option at receiver. And Moreno versus Jacksonville. He's banged up. Jacksonville, is ready to. The defense is primed to stop the run. So I think Moreno will be a good player to pass up on this week. And you have your week 1 sleepers. And here's the guys that you probably didn't draft very early, or they might be still sitting on your waiver wire. And those guys are Josh Morgan against Seattle, Mike Wallace against Atlanta, Massaquoi against Tampa Bay, Kevin Boss against Carolina. Look for Tim Hightower to steal the show over there against St. Louis this week. Johnny Knox against Detroit, going to put up some big numbers. Mike Thomas over there in Jacksonville is going to put some big numbers over against Denver this week. Freeman and Cadillac Williams should do very, very well against Cleveland this week. Gronkowski and Fred Taylor should do very well against Cincinnati. Nani, big-time sleeper against Kansas City this week. Look for Bradford and Robinson. I'm telling you, I wouldn't want to start Bradford, but look for Bradford and Robinson to hook up and have a very good week with Arizona this week. And lastly, Bradshaw. Bradshaw is going to just show Carolina why he's going to be a top 10 running back this year. And the Tutor. Finally, the Tutor's 2010 bowl predictions. And the first one is Chad Henning. Chad Henning will be a top 12 fantasy quarterback this year. The second one will be Jamal Charles, Foster, and Benson. None of them will end up in the top 10. Ryan Matthews will be the top rookie. Ahmad Bradshaw will be a top 10 running back, as I've said already. Deshaun Jackson is going to struggle with Kevin Kolb as his quarterback this year. You watch. He's going to struggle. He'll be outside the top 15 receivers in the league. St. Louis, I'm going to predict, will not win a game this year. And My Super Bowl call for this year is the Giants vs. Patriots rematch from a few years ago. This has been the Tutor. Good night.